Hi everyone. I am getting a lot of questions about the final project, and so I figured I would just make a video really quick to go over some of this stuff. Basically, deadlines to keep in mind, right? You have a draft due on the 29th. That is Monday. So by Monday, you have to have, a 75% finished draft of whatever you choose to do that you can submit for peer review from two of your peers. Okay. I'll be putting together a like a little message board, right? For you guys to, it's on the discussion boards, but I'll make a link with some instructions and probably a video on how to do peer review and how to stay constructive with that. And then you'll just post your draft as an attachment or a link for those of you who are doing video options or whatever. And then what you'll do is use the same response pattern that we've used throughout the semester, which is that you will respond to the person who posted before you and the person after you, and your response is a peer review. Okay, so have your draft done, or at least 75% done. The more done, the better, by Monday, and post that. Um, the peer review, right? So then you'll have to do reviews for two of your peers, right? Again, person before you, person after you, and you'll post your review by the 3rd, and then the final draft is due on the 10th. With your final draft, you are not obligated to take everything, to do all the changes that are suggested by your peers or whatever. You just want to like take their feedback into consideration. And sometimes when someone's like, oh, you need a comma here or whatever, and maybe you don't need a comma there, but there's something wrong with the sentence right there that they think would be addressed by a comma, right? And so a lot of the time, whatever the suggestion is, if you don't like the suggestion, you can still think like, okay, there's something wrong with this piece of my writing or this section of my presentation or whatever that needs some tweaking. All right. The peer review is worth 150 points. That's a huge chunk of your grade, so make sure you get that done. Um, and so over the semester, we've been doing these journals where you kind of like brainstorm different projects that you could do for the final project. That's what we're here for, right? If you've been thinking about a creative option, or you want to do a creative option, that's also a choice, and I'll kind of go over that here in a second. But if you really like one of the journals that you've done so far and you want to explore that more, like this is the place to say like, okay, cool, I've done the research, I've thought about this, and I want to do a whole paper on it. So if you wanted to, for example, choose breathers as your primary text, your essay might explore like the role of the uncanny and your perception of monstrosity, right? Or, you know, right, civil rights also in horror films, right? There's all kinds of stuff that you could do um, in conjunction with breathers or with breathers as a standalone. So you are more than welcome to take one of the texts that we've worked with and kind of like do a compare and contrast with another text, like a comic, video game, a film, whatever, that was not from the class, right? So, like for example, if I was going to do breathers, I would probably um, put it side by side with the Frankenstein that has James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe. Because I think that's a really interesting film with a lot of the same questions about creation and the responsibility of society for certain individuals and all kinds of stuff, right? So, um, with the options, right, unless you choose to write a traditional essay, you should plan to use at least two academic sources in your essay or project. Um, and the way that works is if you do a creative piece, you'll include a one-page explanation of how your work is influenced by the readings and assignments from the course. And you'll also use those two scholarly articles to help provide to help provide an analysis of the work you've produced and its possible meaning. So basically, you'll say like, okay, cool. I was really interested in, right, Alita, and so I wrote this short story, and this is how the short story is influenced by Alita, and here are these two sources that basically say that, our vision of the uncanny and our relationship to cyborgs, right, is, right, XYZ, right? You can say whatever you want about it, but you would basically use those two articles to kind of analyze your own work and kind of say, like, this is what my work is saying. This is what my work is suggesting about the uncanny or about cyborgs, about humanity, about creationism, about whatever else, right? And that's how that would work. And if you have trouble with that, like that tends to be the trickiest part of this assignment. So if you have trouble with that, please email me or message me on Remind and we can go over it together and I can help you with that. If you do a traditional essay, you'll do 5 scholarly articles because this would be a traditional essay, which is going to be very research heavy comparatively. And you would be using those articles basically in the same way that you've been doing in journals, is saying like, hey, here's this article by this person. Their article suggests that Frankenstein is scary, not because he's a monster, but because he's actually like human. And this idea plays into what I'm trying to say about Frankenstein. We should say Frankenstein's monster, but what I'm trying to say about this book in XYZ way, right? And you basically just use their research to bolster what you're saying or help prove that, you know, your observations and suspicions about the text are correct and well-founded. You can also choose to do an audio or video project. Right, and here's the information for that. It should be about 8 to 10 minutes long. Please include a transcript of what you're saying, and you can include that transcript along with the right sort of in the comments of the video if you use YouTube or something like that. And again, you have to use 2 peer-reviewed sources related to those topics. So again, you would be like referencing in your video, hey, I read this article and this is what this article said, and what they're saying I think is a good point about the text or the video or about this theme, and this is how what I'm saying connects with or even opposes what they're saying, right? So if you want to do one of those, an audio or video project, I would really suggest getting a hold of me and just kind of like outlining your project to me a little bit so I can help make sure you stay on the right track. But that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. It's just a good idea. Okay. If you have questions about the assignment, please send me an email as soon as you can. If you're falling behind with the assignment, again, send me an email as soon as you can. I know I've said this before, but my email is constantly getting just like snowed in by emails from departments all over the university and various services and all kinds of stuff like that. So when you guys message me on Remind, I know that whatever is in there is from a student, and then I will respond to it right away, and it doesn't get lost in kind of like the slush pile of university related like junk email that I get. And I hate to put it that way, but that is kind of the situation. So if you haven't signed up for Remind yet, I would really suggest doing it and messaging me that way if you have questions, especially toward the end of the semester when you are dealing with like, you know, 5 different finals and a lot of time crunches and all kinds of stuff like that. Outside of that, what I wanted to say is that I'm about to go on a grading spree and get all of your main assignments graded and catch up with that. If you have questions on anything like that, again, get a hold of me as soon as you can. You have until the last day of the semester to resubmit any of your assignments that have gotten a 1 or have even just gotten a grade you didn't like. Yeah. So with that in mind, do email me when you resubmit to let me know that you've resubmitted something. Otherwise, a lot of the time, I may not notice or something like that. Okay. So definitely do that. And yeah, thank you for being so patient this semester. And I'm really, again, looking forward to reading your final projects. I think you guys have had a lot of really cool observations over the semester, and I'm excited to read your projects and see what you come up with. So let me know if you have questions, and good luck.